Last time I seen her was when I went and woke her up.
When she disappeared that night, then we turned the front and the back lights on, and they stayed on till after she was found.
We just miss her terribly. Now God has given us some answers which we've been waiting for 20 years. It's not often you have a case that's 20 years old that gets solved.
We wanted it solved in our time, but it was solved in God's time.
Rayna Rison, who had recently broken up with her boyfriend, Matt Elser, was looking forward to go on a date with him after the close of work. They wanted to sort out their differences and see if they could become a couple again. Unfortunately, the date never happened because, at around 6 p.m. on the 26th of March 1993, a car arrived for Rayna Rison, and that was the last time she was ever seen alive. The question of what happened to Rayna Rison bugged her family and the police for decades before answers were eventually provided 21 years later. Hello and welcome to Inside Crimes. Hit the subscribe button and turn on your post notifications for more crime cases. Today's murder case takes us to LaPorte, Indiana, a small community about 70 miles southeast of Chicago and is the county seat of LaPorte County. LaPorte, which is a French name for the door, is a typical small Midwestern town with plenty of cafes and bars, trees, and small shops. It is not regarded as a place where you would expect an awful crime to occur, but in 1993, a crime that shook the whole community occurred. Rayna Rison was born on May 6, 1976 to Ben and Karen Rison in LaPorte County, Indiana. In the spring of 1993, Rayna Rison, who attended the LaPorte High School, was an average high school sophomore who had also played different instrument in the school band. According to her school records, she always had good grades. She was an honor student who worked 3 jobs. Rayna Rison had strong aspirations of becoming a veterinarian. Her love for pet even made her take up a job at an animal hospital. The 16-year-old seemed to have her life figured out. On Friday, the 26th of March 1993 appeared to have been a normal working day for Rayna Rison as she head out at around 4 to work at Pine Lake Animal Hospital. After work, she had arranged a date with Matt Elser, her longtime boyfriend, with whom she had recently broken up. They planned on getting back together and hoped the date would be of help. At the close of work, Matt Elser, who was also a sophomore at LaPorte High School, made his way to Rayna Rison's workplace in order to pick her up, but, to his surprise, she was nowhere to be found. Rather, the animal hospital looked deserted as the lights were off and the doors closed. He drove by the hospital a couple of times, but he still couldn't find her or her car. Thinking she must have stopped by her house to grab a few things, Matt Elser drove to her house. On getting to Rayna's house, her father, Ben, told him Rayna hadn't returned home from work either. They decided to wait for her return, but around 10:30 p.m., when she still didn't come back home, they knew something was wrong and they feared the worst. Rayna's parents and her younger sister, Wendy, decided to go to the station to report her missing. When they got there, they were told to wait for 24 hours to file a missing person report. Ben tried to reason with the police, telling them it was unlike Rayna to leave home for so long, but there was nothing the police could do until the 24 hours threshold was completed. By the next day, a search was launched for her. Her family called people they knew, including Lori, her oldest sister, to ask if they had seen her, but nobody seemed to know where and what had happened to Rayna Rison. The Risons' family put up flyers around their community, and the police made a public appeal for information that could lead to Rayna's whereabouts. A lead was generated when witnesses reported that they saw Rayna Rison talking with 2 men in a sedan outside of the animal hospital. They said she appeared to be arguing and quarreling with one of them. To the witnesses, it seemed like a lover's fight. The police assumed that Matt Elser was likely one of those men since they had recently broken up. They then interviewed him and discovered that he was not involved in the disappearance of Rayna Rison. Also, Rayna's parents, who had approved of Matt Elser's relationship with their daughter, believed he had nothing to do with her disappearance. After a continuous search, by the next evening, Rayna Rison's car was found with the hood up on County Road 200 East, just 9 miles from the animal hospital where she worked. At first, it looked like she may have had trouble with the car on the side of the road, but it was later discovered that the keys were in the ignition and the car started without any problems. The investigators believed that the car was staged to look like a breakdown. On searching the car, they discovered Rayna Rison's purse and a man's ring. The investigators thought the ring could bring answers, and wanted to know who it belonged to. Matt Elser was then questioned about the ring. He said it wasn't his, but it belonged to Jason Tibbs, Rayna Rison's ex-boyfriend. Jason Tibbs and Rayna Rison dated each other for 6 months while they were in the 7th grade. They broke up, and soon after, Rayna started dating Matt Elser. The police interviewed Jason Tibbs, and he admitted the ring belonged to him. When asked how it got into the car, he claimed to have been doing some work on Rayna's car and had taken off the ring, placed it in the car and then forgotten about it. They further asked him what he had been doing the night Rayna Rison went missing. He claimed he and some of his friends were fox hunting. Fox hunting is a game of hide and seek that uses cars. The people hiding would give clues to their location over the CB radio, and the seeker had to find them based on those clues. Police spoke with his friends and they confirmed they were playing the game, but no one actually admitted to seeing Jason Tibbs during the game. Jason Tibbs' alibi, though not strong enough, was enough at that time to let him off the hook. The search for Rayna Rison continued. Days turned to weeks and weeks into a month. Eventually, 1 month after her disappearance, on April 26 of 1993, a father and his teenage daughter were fishing in a rural pond just off Range Road, north of US 20 in LaPorte County. They discovered a fully clothed dead body with 2 logs across its back. The man immediately called the police, and when they arrived, they noticed that the dead body was wearing clothes similar to what Rayna was wearing when she disappeared. The body was later confirmed to be the remains of Rayna Rison. The coroner ruled Rison's death as a homicide, and the medical examiner determined the cause of her death to be asphyxiation, which means Rayna Rison was choked and deprived of oxygen. Before her remains were discovered, the police had suspected few persons that could have had a hand in her disappearance. Ray McCarty was one of these few suspects. He was married to Lori, Rayna's oldest sister, and had been a suspect in the initial phase of investigation, but had claimed he never saw her. Lack of sufficient evidence had made the police let him go. However, after she was found, the detective then got a tip saying Ray McCarty should be interviewed thoroughly, and this is because Ray McCarty had once been convicted of child molestation when he continually raped Rayna Rison at the age 11 and got her pregnant at the age of 14. Rayna Rison had an abortion while Ray McCarty received a 3-year suspended sentence in 1991. His probation ended on the 5th of January 1993, just 2 months before Rayna's disappearance and eventual murder. The police thought he might have truly had something to do with Rayna's death, since he probably was pissed at her for ratting him out for what he had done to her. A witness had also come forward to say they had seen Ray McCarthy at the animal hospital where Rayna Rison worked. This made the police to call in Ray McCarty for another round of interview, and this time, he admitted to having seen Rayna the evening she disappeared. He explained to the police that around 5:40 p.m. on March 26, 1993, he was looking for a house for sale on Warren Street, just around the block from the animal hospital. Ray McCarty said he could see the animal hospital and Rayna's car in the parking lot from the house where he was. So, he went to the animal hospital, where he found Rayna sweeping or mopping in the foyer. He asked her if she knew where Lori was, and she replied that she did not, and he left. When the police asked him why he had lied initially about seeing Rayna, he told them that he had picked up a female hitchhiker that night and didn't want Lori to know. He said Lori was still untrustworthy of him after he sexually molested her sister. Ray McCarty was considered a person of interest in the case, but there was no evidence linking him to the crime, and without any other leads, the case went cold for a while. A year and a half later, Indiana police pulled over a van driven by a man named Larry Hall. They arrested him for attempted kidnapping. The police discovered newspaper clippings of Rayna and a prescription bottle with the name R. Rison on it, in his van. After his arrest, Larry Hall claimed to have kidnapped and killed Rayna Rison. However, after investigating his claim, the police discovered he was in Kentucky when Rayna Rison disappeared, and the prescription bottle was fake. Though Larry Hall was ruled out as a suspect in this case, he was later sentenced to life imprisonment for an unrelated murder. In 1998, the investigators working on the Rayna Rison's case decided to take another look at the men in Rayna's life. Matt Elser's story was the same, it never changed, and the authorities believed he did not murder Rayna. Detectives looked at Jason Tibbs' alibi of fox hunting. They concluded it was not solid enough because people playing the game were in their own vehicles and never admitted to seeing Tibbs. They also looked at Ray McCarty's profile and somehow got a search warrant to search his property. Investigators then found blood in his car and 2 handguns and a stun gun in his home. They arrested Ray and charged him right away with murder in May 1998, but, while he was in jail, LaPorte County elected a new prosecutor, Robert Beckman, who decided there was not enough evidence against Ray McCarty to go to trial. Investigators were never able to determine where the blood in his car came from. Ray McCarty was said to be a hunter, so it was possible the blood in his car was an animal's blood. The charges against Ray McCarty was dropped in August 1999, and the case once again became a cold case. In March of 2008, 9 years later, the case was reopened when Ricky Hammonds, who was 14 years old at the time of Rayna's disappearance and murder, contacted the police to say that he had information regarding Rayna Rison's case. Ricky Hammonds, who was in prison for murder, told police that he had witnessed Jason Tibbs and another man named Eric Freeman pull his sister's car into their family pole barn. Eric Freeman was said to have been dating Ricky Hammond's sister at the time and had moved in with them to be with her. When Jason Tibbs and Eric Freeman opened the trunk, Ricky had seen a body inside, covered with a blanket and with the face exposed. At the time, he said he did not realize it was Rayna Rison until after he watched about her disappearance and death on the news. When asked why he never said anything before, Ricky Hammonds told the police that he did not come forward in 1993 because he had been smoking marijuana in the barn at that time and did not want to get into trouble. Detectives then called Eric Freeman at his home in South Carolina, asking him questions about Rayna Rison's murder. Eric Freeman dodged every question because he did not want to be charged as an accomplice. However, in 2013, he was called again by the police. This time, he testified after the police offered him immunity from the law in exchange for his honesty and cooperation in Rayna Rison's murder case. He then told the police that he and Jason Tibbs had drove to the animal hospital around 6 p.m. as Rayna was leaving work. Rayna Rison and Jason Tibbs then got into a car driven by Eric Freeman. Tibbs, who knew Rayna and Matt Elser had issues with their relationship, convinced Rayna not to get back together with Matt but him. Rayna did not like the idea of dating Jason Tibbs again. When the car pulled over on the side of the road, Rayna and Jason Tibbs got out of the car, and they both got into an argument until Jason hit Rayna, knocking her to the ground. He then choked her to death. Eric Freeman and Jason Tibbs then put her body into the trunk of the car. They later backed the car into a pole barn belonging to the Hammonds family. Unknowingly to them, Ricky Hammonds was hiding there and had seen everything that transpired. While at the pole barn, Eric Freeman, who was pissed and scared, asked Jason Tibbs why he had killed Rayna, and Tibbs' response was, "If I can't have her, nobody can." Then, Eric Freeman helped Jason Tibbs dispose of Rayna's body in a pond along Range Road where she was found. In August of 2013, police arrested Jason Tibbs and charged him with the murder of Rayna Rison. On Friday, 23rd of August 2013, he was arraigned in court. According to court documents, Jason Tibbs has always been a person of interest early in the investigation after his ring was found in Rayna Rison's car. There were also letters from Jason to Rayna, taken from her bedroom, that said he would go to almost any extreme to be her boyfriend again. The prosector further read aloud 2 love letters Jason Tibbs had written to Rayna Rison in their 7th grade. Both letters professed his love for her and expressed disappointment that they were not together. One of the letter read, it kinda bothers me to see you tied down to one person. I'm jealous of Matt. Jason Tibbs' trial began in October 2014 and ended a month later. All through the trial, the defense tried discrediting Ricky Hammond's and Eric Freeman testimonies. They focused their attention on Ray McCarty as the killer of Rayna Rison, and this is because, at one point, Ray McCarty had threatened to kill Rayna Rison if she reported their sexual relationship. However, the defense's theory was not believed by the jury. Jason Tibbs was found guilty of murder, and in December 2014, he was sentenced to 40 years in prison. A year later, his attorney, Scott King, appealed the murder conviction, but the Indiana Supreme Court voted against it. Following his arrest, Rayna's father, Ben Rison, said in an interview, "When you murder somebody, you don't murder that person. You murder a whole family." Though her killer has been brought to justice, but Rayna's death seemed not to have brought closure to her family yet. In his words, Ben Rison said, "You take it a day at a time, you learn to live with it. You won't get over it, so you learn to live with it." He also expressed his hope of finding a semblance of peace.
Hopefully, now my family can find some sort of semblance of peace from what we've been through for the last 20 years.